So for the next section, we're delighted to have with us Piers Linney. And as I quickly mentioned before, so this is a true champion of entrepreneurship, of how to grow a small business. As you saw on the slide, he was previously in a TV program called Dragon's Den. Anyone ever seen that program? Just a matter of interest, a few of you. So, but in the end, you know, this is someone who is a serious champion of growing businesses. He has been an investor into many small businesses, both personally and through funds. He works with the British Business Bank as well, which is a government institution, and I think I probably need to say no more. Needless to say, I think he has a lot of good advice and things to say about how to grow small business. And so I'll turn it over to him to take you through the next session.
He's been soaking my time up already. So great to be here. It's a fantastic event. I've really enjoyed Cisco Live so far. I've been learning a lot myself. I've been rapidly rewriting my speech to try and work out how I can weave what I've learned this morning, which has been quite exciting. So I've got about 43 minutes, 18 seconds, and I want us to add some value. I know you run your businesses, you've come out to, maybe you've got on a plane, you've spent time and resource being here, so I want to try and add some value. I want to try and help you, whether you're a founder, a senior management, or a senior IT manager, whoever you are, I want to help you think about how you grow your business. So, what I need to understand my audience a bit more, I know some of you have watched Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, I want to answer this question and put your hands up. Who does not want to grow their business? Is a hand over there? No? No? Well, that makes my speech a lot easier. And you may laugh, but actually I do a lot of research with the government. I'm a trustee of a very large, the UK's largest innovation charity too, called Nesta, £450 million endowment. We do a huge amount of research about SMBs, small businesses, innovation. And not all small businesses want to grow. But the research shows that 51% do want to grow, but unfortunately and annoyingly, a third of those businesses, a third of companies in the UK that want to grow don't know how to. And that's about technology, finance, and the things I'm going to go through. So I'm going to go through my 5 key factors, which are planning, sounds obvious, operations, people, finance, and of course, and this one kind of pervades all of it really, but I've kind of put it as a separate part of this presentation, is technology. So a bit more about me to give you some context before I go into this. So my background is in corporate finance. I'm a lawyer. I've got a panel later. We're going to talk about their businesses. One of Fran's there actually is a lawyer too. We've shared that together. So I'm a lawyer by training. I'm a corporate financier. I'm a venture capitalist. I'm a hedge fund manager. And I've sat on every side of that table as an investor, a director, a founder, as someone buying a company out to administration, somebody putting a company into administration, sadly. I've kind of done it all. So I've got a lot of experience and insight, and that's what I want to share. I've also had in a former life, a career as a software and services provider. I've had a cloud services providing business. So I know a lot about technology, infrastructure, unified communications. I've kind of been there too, and I've acquired them, and I've sold them. I've also, as Jeremy mentioned, I've been on TV for my sins. I was a dragon on Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, which is all very exciting, perhaps, but what that's given me is a platform to be a champion for growth, a champion for business. And something that's very close to my heart is tapping my mic, is a champion for technology and how technology can help small businesses grow. So that's what I'm going to go through. So let's start with planning. You need a plan. Sounds obvious. You need a destination. You need a goal, an objective. And why is that? And the reason is because when you start making decisions about your business and technology decisions, whatever they may be, unless that decision helps you move from where you are, your A, to your intended point B, you don't do it. Don't waste resource, time, effort, energy. But in order to have that clarity of decision making, you need to have a point B. Now, when you decide on your point B, you write a roadmap. Some of us call that a business plan. And in your business plan, you need to have a clear line of attack, but you have to take people with you. Now, I know on my panel, I've got companies with 3 people later, one with 300 people, and they've got to take people with you. And the bigger your business gets, the more you have to take with you. It might be your suppliers, your staff, your senior team, your investors, your lenders, your supplier. It could even be your customers. But make sure if you're the captain of the ship, or one of the captains, that your map, you share it with the crew. Because otherwise, they're going to get lost long before you do. The other point is, and you can probably see it in this diagram behind me, you read on the internet a lot, straight line growth. The fastest point from A to B is in a straight line. That's what you should take. Fantastic in physics. In business, that's not how it works. Your path will not be, and even Cisco hasn't been, in their small business aspirations in the past, has not been a straight line from A to B. It's going to meander. And you may need to take the path of least resistance, as a river does, to get from A to B. And that's something that I've sort of suffered from myself. I thought that going from A to B, I was clever, I was an investment banker, I was a lawyer, I had a business plan, I had some money, and I always thought that's what I could do. And it never worked out that way at all. The other thing is, I think Bastian said earlier that, and he's right, some companies don't want to grow. And a decade ago, that was fine, you didn't need to grow. A no growth strategy in this market today, in this world, is a bad strategy. The disruptors are being disrupted. Growth means, no matter, even if you manage to have a plan to stay where you are, the likelihood is you're going to be losing market share. You'll wake up one morning and realize that you have no market share, or you're about to be disrupted, and you aren't in a position to change, to pivot, to deal with it. So growth, in my view, you could have a different view in your business. There could be a very specific reason why you don't want to grow, but growth typically is a bad plan. So I've been involved in lots of businesses. I'm going to give you an example. So there was a company I invested in on Dragon's Den. Some 4 Israeli PhDs walked in halfway through a venture capital round of finance, and I thought, what's there not to like? So I invested in this company. And this company makes personalized children's content. It makes books for children, basically. And they raised £10 million from Google. Google bought 1% off me, which paid for all my Dragon's Den, actually, did quite well out of it. But they had this huge, this rapidly growing trajectory. They sold 3 million books within 3 years. They were the #1 fastest growing tech track company in the UK last year. So this business is going absolutely great guns. They hired people, they rolled out a global infrastructure, they put a massive board in place, they put some big names on their board, they did massive partnerships. It all looked great. It looked like straight line growth. But they then realized that with growth becomes complication. They realized that their marketing strategy, the ROI, fell over time. They realized that they'd hired too many people, perhaps the wrong people as well. They realized they probably raised too much money. And that going after top line growth without the, I'll come on to this in operations, without the infrastructure and the people behind it, sometimes in businesses what happens is, maybe you've done this yourself, the sales and marketing front end detaches from the operational back end. And it works for a time, but eventually something breaks. And that's what they found. So they retrenched, they adjusted their plan. Their plan was to be the world's leading provider of personalized content for children. And they adjusted their plan. Rather than going for top line, they slowed it down. They went for profitable growth. They cut the cost. They changed their technology platform to be more efficient. And they basically now are profitable almost, I think. And they're doing tens of millions of revenue. But their destination is the same. The journey there, the route's going to be different, but their destination's the same. And that's a technology-led company. They can change quickly. They can be nimble. They can be dynamic. Lots of companies, if you're making, as one of my panelists is machinery, sometimes it's not that easy. So don't believe in straight line growth. The other point is, and they found this too, I've done this myself. So when you're building your business and you're growing, don't forget the core business. And the point is this, is how do you grow a business? There are only so many ways, really. So there's doing more of the same. If your product's great, sell more of it. But check the ROI, check your marketing is working and the ROI doesn't suddenly dip before you notice. Mergers and acquisitions. I was an M&A banker at Credit Suisse. Great way of growing your business. In fact, over the OECD, 20% of business growth is through M&A. The point with M&A is, you'll see from my 5 factors, you need to get these right, because if you get an acquisition wrong, the people, the operations, the finance, the technology, it doesn't gel with your business, you can find very quickly that that acquisition could take down the original business. New product development, inventions, clearly that's the way to grow. That requires investment. That requires placing bets. It means that some of that may not work. Because you've succeeded in the past, doesn't always mean you'll succeed with a new product or an invention in the future. So be very careful about that. And the other one, of course, is new markets. So whether it's a new market segment or a new territory internationally, you want to move abroad, that's where there are so many companies, I say, UK companies in my instance, that I've been involved in some, that are washed up corpses on the beaches of the USA. Because they thought that it was a big market, we're very clever, we've got great technology, we're selling loads of this stuff in the UK, we'll sell more in the US. And they're incapable of doing that because they hadn't planned. And you'll see that when I go through my factors, these 5 factors are even more important when you're talking about M&A or growing into new markets, especially when it comes to people. And underlying all of this, when you're planning, is, and I'll come back to the end in technology, is plan to integrate fundamentally technology in your business. It is changing, even faster sometimes than a company like Cisco can keep up with. You know, the world is changing massively. And I see this in technology sometimes. I sit in investment meetings, people explain what this AI is going to do. It blows my mind. So that's the first thing, is you need to have a plan. The second one is operations. Now, you probably gather from the way I'm strutting around here, I'm a bit of a sort of, I'm not the kind of guy that really has always enjoyed policies, regulation, the horrible word compliance, systems, processes. I'd like to put a team together, have an idea, and attack an opportunity or a problem and try and build a business. But the issue is, as you grow your business, and you'll find this in any business, no matter where you are, as you grow your business, you need to grow up, and so does your business. You need to implement policies, systems, processes, understand regulation, understand compliance. Because as you grow, the idea is to create your service, your product, on a machine that churns out lots of it at scale, with the best customer service, the best product you can offer, at the best margin, as fast as possible, as fast as your marketing is working. That's what growth is about. That's what venture capitalists look for. They look for a machine where if they put in $1, $2, $5, $10 million here, the other side, they make 20, 30, 40, 50. And they want to see that clear operational model. So that's a clear thing. And the other thing is automate everything. Now, I'll come back to Elon Musk's view in a minute, but you'll probably see that the ability to automate almost everything you do. When I started in business, everything was on-premise, nothing talked to each other, it was all interconnected, had these large systems integrators. They were making a lot of money out of large companies, but increasingly small companies, just fitting this stuff together, making it work, making that on-prem system talk to this on-prem system. You know, 18 years later, show my age, 18 years later, that doesn't really exist. You can, as a small company, it's what Jeremy was talking about, as a small company, you can implement, embrace, and connect technologies that make a huge difference to all aspects of your business, almost on the fly. So automate everything that's possible. And I'm not selling Cisco here, but networks are the oxygen of your business. And I found this, I've learned this the hard way, I'll come on to in a moment, but networks are the oxygen. Networks about sharing ideas, communicating. And I'll come on to people in a minute about where people are, how you access talent, how you should embrace diversity. But if your network's not resilient, not strong, not secure, it can't be accessed from anywhere by your agile teams, then your business is going to be less productive. It'll probably cost more to do whatever you want to do, be less efficient, less successful. So I'll give you an example. So I bought a business from a very large FTSE 100 company in the UK. It was a mobile phone sort of operation business. We did sort of cloud, mobile, and data too. Bought this company, unprofitable, 300 employees. We did 2 acquisitions. We got to 400 employees, probably about 20 million of revenue. When I arrived in the company as a CEO, I was looking around, talking to the teams, and I met a guy whose job title was the Senior Complaints Manager, which worried me. I was more worried when I met his boss, the Head of Complaints. That tells you about his business. They were using people as sticking plasters to fix problems. They were using technology. I couldn't call somebody on the phone. There was no combined list of phone numbers. There was no sort of Rolodex. There was no way of knowing who worked for the business. If somebody left the business, you couldn't just switch them off. It was a complete and utter mess. So we used software to change the customer service sort of mechanism. We use unified communications to completely change the culture. And I'll come on to we changed a lot of the people actually. But we used technology to change that business. We went from 400 people to 150 people. We went from 20 million revenue to 40 million revenue, £4 million EBITDA, and within 4 years we sold the business again. And that was purely about looking at it and going through these 5 factors, literally one by one and ticking them off. But the core one there that really helped us was communications. That changed the culture in that business. And what I learned the hard way is that it doesn't matter what policies, systems, processes you put in place. And a point I should have said is this: put them in place before you need them. If you suddenly realize that, we're going to have to get an ISO accreditation or change the way we have our network policies, people can't. That poor guy who's going to get sacked in San Francisco can't sit on YouTube every day. If you're going to put policies in place, put them in place before you use them. In our mobile phone business, we knew we were going to go after large telco tenders, and we knew that we wouldn't win those tenders unless we put these systems and processes and policies in place. So we put them in place at great cost ahead of the game. So when we hit those tenders, we had those conversations. When those large enterprises did due diligence, we had all the answers. We ticked all the boxes. But even when you do that, risk management and it's cultural. So when you're growing your business, don't lose the culture with it. But within your culture, you need to implement those cultures about security, operational excellence. They need to understand growth. They need to have seen the business plan and be on the journey with you. So as you grow your business, yes, sort of build in, bake in these operational needs, but don't lose the culture that you built your business with. And I'll come on at the end in technology, but operationally, the power of cloud. I mean, Jeremy and Bastian, great job of explaining that, but do not underestimate the power of a cloud. And the cloud you see today is just the beginning. If you look at the cloud technology of the future, where it's going and implementing AI and storage and compute, and the beauty now of hyper-converged infrastructure with networking built in, this is just the start. And what I found, and I've sold technology, what I found is that everyone sits in the room looking at these things, well, is that the right thing today? Think of your mobile phone 10 years ago. Think of your computer 5 years ago. And technology is exponential growth. Innovation is becoming exponential. In 5-10 years, if you're not making the right decisions today about your operational effectiveness, you'll be too far behind to catch up. Big one. Should have been number 1, really, but I wanted to say this one. People. So Elon Musk took my advice, because he called me up, obviously, and he said, I'm going to automate everything. And he tried, and it didn't really work, because even today, the technology is not quite there in terms of AI. So his quote recently was, humans are underrated. And they are in certain circumstances. But humans, your human resource, your people, your team, and you've heard this a million times, but it is true, they are your most important asset. An asset you need to invest in, nurture, and build, and make sure they're right for that business. And right for that business means it might change over time. So when I had that mobile phone business, that morphed into a cloud business. I went through 3 management teams. When we bought the company, we had meetings with presentations about stuff that was unnecessary. They came from a big corporate. They were kind of good at running a big sort of corporate business with no direction. When we gave them direction, some of the teams didn't get it. They knew what they knew, they did what they did, and they didn't want to change. So they couldn't come on the journey with us. Some did, some didn't, so it changed the game. We then went into a digital business transformation phase. Again, some of them didn't make it through that. They didn't want to see change. They wanted to do what they've been doing for many years. Some did, some evolved. We then started to go after very large enterprise. So, put the communications in some very large companies, and that team need a different skill set. And the point is, when you're small, you can multitask. You can do different things. You can make the tea, be the sales manager, look after the IT. As you begin to grow, you need skill sets, experience. I've just started a company that makes mountain bikes using 3D printed, additive printed titanium and carbon fiber. Now, I can talk a good game if you want me to about that, but I don't understand it. I need aerospace materials engineers. I need people that understand 3D printing, and that's what's in the business. I can take it so far and outsource it perhaps, but the people, the expertise grows with you. And as your company begins to grow, sometimes you have to make very hard decisions about the team, sometimes the team that started with you, sometimes yourself. I've looked at organizational charts and thought, there's one person on that chart that is not going to make it through this next phase, and that sadly was me. And sometimes I moved on to be a chairman or an advisor, but I moved out to the managing director role because I was not the best person to take that business forward, to make sure that my investment, my shares, would be worth as much as they possibly could. And what this means as you grow your business is that you need to start to manage people very closely. So when you're all multitasking, it's all very, you sort of trust people. As you grow, you bring in new people. They're asking quite a lot of money. And one bit of advice is, which wasn't in my presentation, is when you're trying to bring in the big person from the big corporate and they want quite a lot of money, say to them this, and they say, I want 10% of your company because I'm going to add so much value. The point is this, and Ben Horowitz said this in his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Difference is they can leave, you can't. So bring them on board, but manage people very closely. Share your plan. Give them objectives. Make sure they understand the KPIs. Manage them closely. And if they're not adding value in the way they were supposed to, you need to change the people over time. And that's something I struggle with as an entrepreneur. I struggle with managing people very, very closely, doing one-to-ones, making sure they were doing what they said they were going to do and what I asked them to do, and making changes. And this is something that's very close to my heart too, is that do not let where people are limit your ability to hire them. Talent is becoming a scarce resource. Throughout EMEA, and most economies actually, there's going to be a talent shortage, a skill shortage over the next 10, 20 years. So if you find the right talent, and I've seen Cisco using their own technology to do this. I've been working with people at Cisco all over the world, ringing me, flashing my phones, flashing on video conferencing. Where's Charlotte? She was here. I called Charlotte on video. She had this beautiful antique book library, and I realized it was wallpaper. But it was great because we were able to build a relationship, and it works. But do not let where people are, location, restrict talent. Use technology to access talent. Don't necessarily going to be in your town, your city, or even your country. I know startups with 10 employees, they all live on different continents almost. And the other thing is something very, very close to my heart. So I came from a very normal school in the UK. I managed to get into law in the City of London, built at Wall Street, ended up at Credit Suisse, an investment banker, which is quite rare for somebody from my background who went to my kind of school. So I was talent and I was diverse. My mum's from Barbados, and it struggled. There aren't many people like me in what I used to do. There aren't many women, there aren't enough women in technology. So diversity, the pool of talent is enormous. So use technology to access that talent and make sure that you access diverse talent. My clicker working? Finance. Now I'm not going to, this is my masterclass. This is going to be 2 hours, but instead of afternoon, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But finance is, at the end of the day, most business growth needs finance. Unless your business is producing sufficient profit to cover the investment you want to make, be it OPEX or CAPEX, whatever that is, you're going to need to raise finance. Now, my background actually is corporate finance. I'm a corporate finance lawyer, an investment banker. This is what I've done for many, many years. I'm on the board of the government bank in the UK. So I can see at great height the data on what growth companies need, where they're getting it from, and also what they're afraid of, what they're nervous of. That's what we look at very closely. And what a lot of small companies are afraid of is raising finance. And why is that? That's because you've built your business, you own it, you know your shareholders, you haven't borrowed money, and suddenly, I was talking to Franz on my panel, who's busy texting his mum, Franz on my panel, about he's about to raise some money as well. So he's going to go through this process, because when you're raising finance, the due diligence checklist looks rather like my list, a lot of it as well. So what companies are afraid of is new stakeholders. People sitting on their board, people having shareholder agreements telling them what to do, lenders with covenants telling them what they can and can't do, and what happens if they don't pay them. And the point about finance, I'll come back to it as a lawyer, is finance is a contract. It's a negotiation. It's about making sure that you get the right terms, you're comfortable with it, that you're secure in terms of how that structure works, and it adds value to your business. But the bigger point about finance is, going back to my first factor, plan to finance. There is no point having a fantastic plan, working through it, and then realizing halfway through, when you've signed your first customer, you haven't quite got your infrastructure in place, you need to raise $1 million or £1 million or €1 million. It's too late. And what happens is, when you do that, it puts you in a poor position in terms of negotiation. You're on the back foot. It means you're usually slow to react, and it can threaten your business. I've seen many companies I've invested in grow. Not only is the operational back end not caught up, their financial planning hasn't caught up, and despite the growth and the huge demand for their product and service, they've actually gone out of business. So plan to finance and plan early. Yes, external finance brings stakeholders into your business, but they can add a huge amount of value if they're the right people, if they're the right partners. And what you'll see in the market now is, after the credit crunch, so credit crunch, there was a lot of equity and debt. Debt kind of pulled out, it left a big gap. Equities tried to catch up. You've got crowdfunding of various other forms, depending on what country you're in. And now you're seeing the debt sort of creeping this way with new models of debt, so peer-to-peer lending, or cash flow financing, or even being able to sort of finance your online credit card receipts. There's lots of new ways you can raise finance. And the point about finance is, if you've got an opportunity, a team, a plan, go for my list again, the technology in place, financing is a buyer's market. There's a lot of money out there looking for a home. And by a lot of money, I mean billions. It's looking for a home, looking for somewhere to go. And the point is earlier about growth companies are the engines of any economy. That's what create wealth for entrepreneurs and for investment funds. So they want to invest in you. But you've got to get your ducks in a row. So that's the main point to remember is plan early, and remember it's a buyer's market if you've got the right business and the right model. And the big one is technology. We can kind of dwell on this for as long as you want, really. But technology pervades the four other factors. Technology is, I used to talk about sort of innovation curves where you see new technologies come in, kick in, and they fade over time and new ones kick in. Those curves used to be 20, 50 years. If you look at the electricity generation industry, power stations, and now maybe solar electricity and storage and sort of Elon Musk batteries, it's probably 10, 20-year cycle. What you're seeing now is these innovation curve cycles shorten to maybe 3, 4, 5 years. So technology is a massive opportunity, but it's also a massive threat. But it can massively change your business. So the future of business is, it's not really about human endeavor in terms of driving, or if you're a driver, if you're a manual worker, a machine, if you're an accountant even lawyers actually, all those jobs are under threat from technology. And the thing that's not under threat, and the research at Nesta that we've done, shows that what differentiates humans from the machines going forwards is creativity. So your business needs to be about creativity. Creative thought, invention, your intellectual property, and that's what gives you a competitive advantage against your competition, but also the machines coming after what you do. So think about lawyers. People think the lawyers are safe. What do lawyers do? Lawyers they're applying logic to an enormous data set, i.e. the historic law. A machine can do that. And then you'll need far more lawyers to actually assimilate what the right answer is. So machines will enable human creativity. Humans need to provide the creativity. Increasingly, machines are going to do almost everything else. So embrace technology. This is what Jeremy was talking about. I'm not going to repeat all of it, but he's kind of stolen some of my thunder. But about adoption, about the power of cloud, about, if you're a small company, when I started my companies, move everything from CapEx to OpEx if you possibly can. It's about adoption as well. We were talking earlier to somebody saying that it's not about buying and implementing new technology, it's about adopting it, about training, making sure that your people and your customers, they actually use it. If they use it, they'll see the value it creates, and they're more likely to buy more or renew that contract over time. So embrace it as well. The other big thing is now is small businesses. This is my favorite point. Small businesses can now embrace big technology. And I think we were talking earlier in the presentations about that, but I think what I want to add to that is this, is why is it, if you look at OECD research, why is it that large enterprises invest in technology more than small businesses? And there's a reason for that. They have teams, they have very clever people, and they pay them to do, all day long, the analysis and the research, and to talk to vendors like Cisco, to make informed decisions about what that business should do over the next year, 3 months, 5 years, even 10 years. And the answer typically is to invest in technology. Now, small businesses, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the patience, you haven't got the money sometimes, going back to finance, but the large enterprises investing, that's the wrong way around. Small companies now can buy the same technology. I've put the same technology into a company with 26,000 employees as startups use. And the startups use it in a far better way. They're more productive, they understand it, they implement it, they train their users to use it. Jeremy was saying earlier, a company where they didn't put phones on the desk, they had to use video. That's what you need to do. And the point is that your next generation coming in, they're multitasking. They're highly productive. They're used to having the phone and video and messaging and sharing ideas on the internet. If they come into the office environment and they're given a phone and a massive old computer and another phone, and none of it talks to each other, and they can't contact anybody, it doesn't fit together, if their corporate IT is worse than their consumer IT, they're going to use their consumer IT to get around the corporate IT. That's shadow IT, and you don't want that. That brings about huge risk and huge security issues. So, again, we talked about connectivity. So, what does connectivity do? It's not just, people say to me all the time, it's an internet connection. Innovation is about sharing ideas. It's about communication. It's about iterating ideas. And to share ideas these days, you need fantastic, secure connectivity. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to either steal your idea or leak your idea, or you're going to lose your idea as well. So that's extremely important. And what people are increasingly looking for when they come into a business, it's not just about how much they're getting paid. It's about the work environment. It's about what technology they're using and embracing. It's about their corporate social responsibility. To attract talent, you need to provide them with a work environment that actually is at least as good as their personal consumer technology environment. And what this allows you to do is what I found in my businesses is, and I'm doing 2 startups now actually, and I say, right, you need to implement everything, automate everything in the cloud, and look at, is it secure? So we're still suffering to some extent in FUD. I'm sure you get this in your sales team, FUD. What's FUD? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's how people sell against cloud and this kind of technology if they haven't got it themselves. That's what on-prem providers have done for many years. So the age of fear, if you look at innovation curves, it kicks off. You get a long period of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Technology takes off, usually later than you thought it was going to, but faster than you thought it was going to, and it tapers off. So we're coming out of that age now of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's where you need to really embrace this technology. Because your competition will embrace it before you, they're ahead of you. And it's harder to catch up. You think of AI is exponential. So theoretically, whoever gets AI first on a Tuesday, if the next person designs it on the Wednesday, they will never, ever catch up. And business is not quite that bad, but implementing technology early will put you ahead and hopefully enable you to stay ahead. And again, it sounds like I'm selling Cisco again. I'm not. Security. Now, when I got into business, security was me remembering to run a tape backup and take it home. And quite often I didn't. Security, and I've been reading a lot about this. So I love this sort of phrase, the attack surface. So the attack surface now is growing exponentially, whether it's phishing, whether it's social engineering, or people actually DDoS attacks, people digging into your network for access points. Security. I've been involved in one business where we had a board meeting on, I think it was a Tuesday evening. The CEO went to bed that night, woke up in the morning, had a data breach, sold his data, ended up in a newspaper. That was the end of the business. That was £2 million of funding gone. And the research shows that a typical small business breach, security breach, costs about $2 million. So ask yourself, can you afford that? Can you afford upset customers? Can you afford lost data? Can you afford lost intellectual property? Security is not an afterthought anymore. It's a fundamental part of your business. And if you don't have that right, you're basically putting yourself at business risk, but also a risk of quite extensive litigation. So the point is, digital transformation is now business transformation. There's no difference. It used to be two different things. You used to have business transformation specialists, digital transformation specialists. Now it's exactly the same. So I've kind of run through a lot there. There's 5 points, but let me just give you a summary. So planning. You need a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's very hard to make decisions on how you get from A to B. Second one, operations. Put the processes, systems, compliance, regulatory understanding in place before you need it. If you do it too late, or as you begin to grow, inevitably the wheels are going to fall off. That's an English phrase, if it's new to you. The wheels will fall off. And inevitably, as you try and catch up, implementing all these policies, processes, plans, and technology, it will actually cost you more than it would have done if you'd done it in an orderly fashion. People. People are your most important asset, but you have to, as you begin to grow, you will introduce new people. For example, salespeople. One thing I've noticed about salespeople, they're very good at selling themselves. So you need to manage people very, very, very closely. Finance. Typically, you're going to need finance. So as you grow your business, look at financing and plan for financing long before you need financing. I've been involved in so many financings where I think it's going to take 1 month or 2 months. It took 3, 6, 12, 18 months sometimes, depending on various issues. So plan to finance early, or you'll find your business plan may not be something you can actually even execute. And technology pervades all of this, but it's pervasive, but it's also something to look at separately. So in your planning, plan to implement technology. Look at how you can use technology to create competitive advantage, to be more efficient, to reduce cost. Operationally, how do you automate things to what I call reduce friction in your business? So you can focus on the business of running your business, not ICT. Technology. I mean, the fact you're all here today, I think, explains that you understand the value of it. So these are the 5 factors, and it doesn't matter whether you're growing your business, looking for M&A, or raising finance. If you go for these 5 systematically, and I'm sure some of this you know, but I'm sure some of this hopefully has given you something to think about. These are the 5 factors that are going to help you grow your small business. I hope that's been useful. Thank you.